And breaking news, Republic TV accesses the declaration where, remember, terror has been put out in full letter and spirit. India is prevailing as far as that big declaration coming out of the BRICS is concerned. This is a big win for India. State-sponsored terror has been strongly condemned by the BRICS nation. In fact, before we connect with our colleague Aditya Rajkol, who's been keeping us ahead on that big story, I'm just reading out from this declaration. Remember, this is point number 48. It says, and I quote, "We in this regard express concern on the security situation in the region and the violence caused by the Taliban, the Al-Qaeda and its affiliates, including the Eastern Turkish Islamist movement, the Islamic movement of Uzbekistan, the Haqqani network." It mentions the Lashkar-e-Toiba, it mentions the Jaish-e-Mohammed, the TTP and Hizbul Tahrir. So this is important, remember, and also more significant because it is coming in from China. The same China, remember, which has been an all-weather friend of Pakistan. And yes, excerpts of that declaration now are up on your screens. We are putting it out there for you. And closely look at the wording. It is condemning terror. It is mentioning Lashkar-e-Toiba. It's mentioning Jaish-e-Mohammed. And many would say that this is the strongest statement against terror that we've heard from the BRICS platform ever. Aditya with us on the phone line. And Aditya, this is huge. This is a defining moment considering, this is coming in from where? From China, where India is present. India, remember, has been raising the entire issue of terror. And this is China also, remember, which it seems is finally doing a course correction. Would it be right to say that, Aditya?
That's right, Deepthi. This is the first statement coming in from the platform of BRICS. In fact, one of the strongest on terror. We heard a condemnation on terror from Goa BRICS summit last year as well. But this one is perhaps one of the strongest. In fact, if I can take you the point 48 through 49 and 50 in the Shemin declaration that has just been released and accessed by Republic TV, it says that we in this regard express concern on the security situation in the region and violence caused by the Taliban, ISIL, Daesh, Al-Qaeda and its affiliates, including Eastern Turkmenistan Islamic movement of Uzbekistan, the Haqqani network, Lashkar-e-Toiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, TTP and Hizbul Tahrir. So these are important terror groups that have been named and shamed, and two of whom are based in Pakistan. So this is important because this is coming on Chinese territory. There were apprehensions initially because China was the host. How much will they agree to abide by in the Shemin declaration? But clearly terror groups based in Pakistan have been named and shamed. State-sponsored terrorism has been condemned. On the point 49, it has been clearly mentioned that we deplore all terrorist attacks worldwide, including attacks in BRICS countries, and condemn terrorism in all its forms and manifestations wherever committed and by whomsoever, and stress that there can be no justification whatsoever for any acts of terrorism. We reaffirm that those responsible for committing and organizing and supporting terrorist acts must be held accountable, recalling the primary leading role and responsibility of states in preventing and countering terrorism. We stress the necessary to develop international cooperation in accordance with the principles of international law, including that of sovereign equality and states and non-interference in the internal affairs. So this is again a big statement because remember, Pakistan has been trying to intervene in the internal affairs of India, specifically on the question of the northern Indian state of Jammu and Kashmir. So a very strong, a very bold statement coming in from Shemin in China, from the BRICS platform, condemning state-sponsored terrorism, asking those states and organizations backing terrorism to stop immediately. So certainly India had been pressing this for a very long time. Republic was the first to report that Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be making a strong intervention, and India will be pressing for terror groups to be named in the final Shemin declaration, and that's what has finally prevailed.
But this is massive, Aditya, because consider the import of this. This is the same China, Aditya, which has been the all-weather friend of Pakistan. It really understands, where does Pakistan actually get its support when it comes to terror, when it comes to these terror affiliates. And for the very first time, when you have this declaration actually mentioning these terror groups, is this also a moment perhaps of atonement, perhaps many would say, for China, the same China which had also been blocking those sanctions against the Jaish-e-Mohammed chief?
That's right. You're making a very important and valid point, Deepthi. We have seen in the past as well how, China has been an all-weather friend of Pakistan. And is this really a course correction that China has been indulging in? Because remember, the background here is very important. This statement comes right after the Doklam standoff between India and China. Now, in spite of that Doklam standoff, China has not led, that to believe that there could be changes made and, there cannot be, terror groups that could be mentioned. Because last time around, if I remember correctly, in Goa, terror groups were not mentioned in the Goa declaration of BRICS. So this is a significant achievement coming in from the Ministry of External Affairs and the Indian government, where finally terror groups have been mentioned. Two of the biggest terror groups, Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Toiba, who have been creating havoc on India, have been mentioned. So is this really a course correction by China? That is one. And secondly, you rightly pointed out on issues of Maulana Masood Azhar and several other terror-related issues, China hasn't really been backing India. They have been putting out technical grounds where they say in the UNSC, 1267 committee, there are some technical issues and that's why they will not be supporting India. But on this particular, at the BRICS level at least, India has prevailed. Terror groups have been named and shamed. And terror groups that have been, in fact, leading to law and order situation, violence and bloodshed in the Indian side of Jammu and Kashmir have been named and shamed. So significant embarrassment coming in for the Pakistani as well. An all-weather friend, a very close ally of China. We'll have to wait and watch how things proceed now. We are, of course, waiting for the big bilateral which will take place tomorrow between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Xi Jinping. That will be at the end of the BRICS summit. But I am right now at the Vendam Grand, which is the hotel of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. In a few minutes from now, we will be hearing an update, the first press conference by Ravish Kumar, who is the Joint Secretary and the XP and also the spokesperson of the Ministry of External Affairs. He will be dwelling more into it. He will give details of what India really demanded and what India has exactly achieved by mentioning and condemning terror at the BRICS platform.
All right, so the BRICS declaration for the very first time is mentioning the LET, the JEM, and my colleague Aditya closely tracking that big story for us. And importantly, what would happen when the two world leaders meet tomorrow? We closely track that story. Aditya, for the moment, thank you for getting us all that update.